Alright everybody, we're going to do a quick video. So if you're getting a low oil pressure warning light and you've got a BPY 2-liter turbo, mine's in a Passat, but there was all sorts of them. Mine's a 2007. So if you had a 2-liter turbo pretty much from 2006 to 2008-ish, it's going to be one of these things. And if you're getting the low oil pressure warning light, you're going to be pretty afraid. Pretty unnerving thing. So you hear a lot about the balance assembly, and that's this little guy right here. Oops, there we go. So here is your oil pump drive sprocket right here. I can actually show you what that looks like in there somehow. Here, let me flip this over. Hold on a sec, let me grab a light. Another light. Can't have too many lights. Okay. Let me just aim that in there like that. So in here, you can see your mechanical fuel pump right there. Just squishes the oil out. So that could be one of the causes, but I mean, it's a mechanical device. I don't see that as failing. So where this goes, this is your pickup. Looks like that. So if you're getting that pressure, the first thing you want to do is pull your oil pan, which sucks. Check this strainer right here. Make sure it's not clogged. Your sump pickup. Make sure it's all open all the way through into there. And you want to make sure that the ends of the balance shafts right here are tight, like they're not wobbling back and forth and stuff. And the two of them are real tight like that. And then these are your balance shafts. Some guys will just cut these right out, but I'm factory orientated, I will say. Anyway, so I bought this one just because I was worried that mine had failed, because the whole internet's all about these things going bad and everything. It's crazy and your whole car is going to die. Anyway, so I got this light and I had that ready because just pulling the oil pan is quite a problem. The whole thing start to finish, just oil pan off, pulling this little guy, checking my tensioner to make sure it's still in perfect operation, and making sure all my guides were good on the chain that drives these two. That was a 5.5 hour job for me, taking it slow. Of course, it's winter time here in Canada. It's nice and mild today, but it was like -5 when I did it. Pretty much at night. It was 5.5 hours. Anyway, doesn't matter. What does matter is once you realize that all your stuff is as good as the spare part that you pulled out and you put it all back together, you're going to say, well, let's have a look at this oil pressure switch. I am going to say good luck. Oh, I need my flashlight. This is just the joy of owning a German-built car. Lots of little bits and pieces in here. Okay, so can't really see too well, but what we'll do is we'll use guidepost. All right, so you can see your starter right there, right? And there's that groove in the starter right here. And the oil pressure sensor is directly in line with that. So if I come down here, I mean, it's hard to do while I'm holding everything, but and just reach straight in, you can actually feel the sensor right there. And so the sensor's connector is just like this one. Okay, one of these little holderies. So I made this little tool. Always keep an old screwdriver around just to do that. So this is an old slot screwdriver that I bent in a couple places to give me leverage, and it works just like this. So you get these. Sorry guys, I will try and focus on this. There we go. You put it in there like that, and then you give it a bit of a wiggle, see, and gently pull, and that's how those come out. If you don't do that right, what's going to happen is you're going to break. You can't really see well in there, but there's a little piece of triangle that holds that on, a little chunk of triangular plastic, and if you break that off down there, you're going to regret it. So what I'll do is I'll see if I can give you a better view, because it's horrible. I don't know if it's going to work. Let me click on my camera, turn on the LEDs. Okay, so we can see the light down there. So I've got it lined up in that trough. We're going to take it in. I'm going to try, see how this works. Let me try and find the sensor. I don't know if you'll be able to see my screen. Come on. Okay, so that's the back of the sensor right there. How's it look in real life here? Can I turn up the, yeah, put a bit more LED on it. All right. Try and take some of the reflection out for you. Okay, so that's the back of the sensor, and it's right in there. So you can see there's a round side and a flat side to it. And the clip part is on the kind of on the flat side. If you were to think about it in this orientation, 12 o'clock being up, the clip is approximately at, let's say, 7 o'clock. And you're going to pull straight back, like straight back out through that channel that we're going in on. And I will try and show that to you right now. Turn that off. Okay. And it's going to be tough to see, but what I can do is you can just barely see the sensor down there. I mean, there's way too much stuff in the way, but I'm trying to give you an idea where you can look. Here, I'm just going to cram a flashlight in here just to make it a little bit easier for me. Let's see. Oh yeah, there, that might be okay. Here, so let me get my tool down in there. Can you see my tool? Yep. So it's tapping the sensor right now. Okay. See if I can get it. Can't see, but it's hooked. I think I've got the right spot. Let me just give it a little tug. You can see my tool. I can't do both things at the same time. Oh, ta-da! Oh, you didn't see any of that. It's too bad. But now we know it's under there. Here, let me lay my tool down so you can see. You can see my screwdriver here, how it's in that groove, kind of going straight in. And now, let's see if I can put my camera down there, but I don't think I can. Problem is now I can't see what we're looking at. I can't see the front of my camera, but I think it's pointed in the right direction. Yeah. Somewhere I really hope we can see that sensor. Right in there somewhere. Anyway, I will, my flashlight just died, of course. And your new sensor looks just like this little guy. And I didn't know how hard it was going to be to get that thing out, because you need a 24mm socket. Is this really 10 minutes already? Wow. So I went to my local hydraulic supply house and I bought an adapter, because what I really want to do is screw in an oil pressure gauge so I can actually see what's happening. I got this at Princess Auto. If you're Canadian in the States, you guys have Harbor Freight. They're probably more or less the same thing. $19. But it comes with, you know, a 3/8 NPT, I think, is what, or 1/8 rather, connection, which is like a standard pressure gauge connection. So I had to go and buy, I went to my local hydraulic shop, and they had this right on the shelf. This is a, don't quote me on it, I'm pretty sure it's 1/8 NPT, which is pressure gauge, into the Volkswagen one, which is M10 by 1. So metric 10mm by 1mm thread pitch. And this will screw into where the sensor screws into, maybe, if I can actually get that in there. And then I can hook a pressure gauge up to it and see what's going on. But if you don't want to do that, you can just, you know, put a new sensor in there and, you know, take your chances. I'm going to try and hook this up, and I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyway, at least now we know where it is. All right. Now that I'm hoping, so I got my socket on there. You can see how it's guided kind of through that groove there, okay, with a long extension. I'll put a ratchet onto there in a minute. But here, let's see, now that I've got a nice shiny socket on it, I think you'll be able to see it. There it is. Yeah. So, see my socket wiggling? You can see the only shiny thing down there, right? There's the end of the socket right there. So it's completely covering the sensor right now. You can see. When I back up, you can't see anything, but you can see where the flashlight's pointed in there. My whole screen's covered in grease and oil and everything else. But there it is. It's in there. Right there, right down there. If you feel around, put your hand right in there, you'll get it. All right, little update. Oh, where did we go? All right, so I got sensor out. It's interesting. I mean, obviously it's touching oil. It's supposed to have oil, but the entire inside. It's getting dark, so you won't be able to see it. But the entire inside was full of oil. And I don't know, maybe the back of the sensor has failed, or maybe it works perfectly and I've got bigger problems. But now I can give you a better idea, I think, because now we can actually see. Okay, so back down here, that was a magnetic light just fell off. All right, back down here in the groove, right? And we go straight in. And now when we look at the screen, we can see the empty hole right there. See the big shiny spot right there? So it's right straight ahead. It's just so hard to see because there's so many other tubes and everything else all around it. I can actually go right into the engine, just have a little check in there, see what's going on. But anyway, there it is right there. And we can see when we look down, if you can follow that, there it is right there, going in that groove. It's just maybe 8 inches. So I had to use, I got a 12-inch extension and a deep socket. Is the only way I could get all the way in there far enough and still have enough space back here to actually turn the ratchet. So that's that. There's a little update on where we're at. Way, way, way more complicated than it should ever be. Thank you, Germany. And tell me if there's a massive amount of oil spraying everywhere, okay?
Okay.
Oh my. Oh, there we go. We got lots of oil pressure. Lots and lots of oil pressure. So this is at idle. We're going to let it warm up a little bit.
Okay.
But immediately what this is telling me is that my low oil pressure problem was because I had a bad sensor. We'll see what happens when it warms up. But and when we turn this off, what I'm going to do is a lot of oil back there. When I turn this off, what I'm going to do is show you how we screwed in the that adapter. Okay. Recording. I'm going to rev the car. Tell me if it changes. Actually, long enough, you can probably get it back in. So,
now it is. Going up. 65.
Of course, my low oil pressure sensor in the car is going off like mad, but that's okay, because it's not connected right now.
Yep.
Alright, before it gets too much darker, so car's almost up to temperature. I'm running the VW 502 spec 0W40. Pretty boutique stuff. But we can see here that I'm up at, 26, 27 PSI here. Almost at temperature. So you're probably wondering, how does one go about getting that thing in there? Because it is a beast of a job. And the answer is, I took a barbecue skewer and I zip tied the tube that came with the pressure gauge to it, and then I just put it in and turned the whole thing. It took a while. Not an easy job even with this, but it's virtually impossible otherwise. If I had to do it again, I'd use an actual copper tube instead of this the cheapest of the cheap stuff that comes on these gauges. But all in all, I mean, it's better. So I've got just a little leak back here, but I don't think it's enough to really throw things off. So yeah, doing great. Very happy. Unfortunately, all this stuff's too stiff. I'm not going to take the chance on bringing it back to the car so I can rev it up. But so far so good. I think in another couple minutes we'll be up to temperature, and we'll see where we end up. All right, so we are not quite up to temperature. We're almost there. If I didn't have my Climatronic on, it's sucking heat out right now. But I mean, we're really close. I'm sure, as I said, we're running 0W oil in here. So it is probably at full flowing viscosity. Sweetie, if you want to hold that for me, and we'll. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rev it up to, it's going. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rev it up to, I think the factory spec is 22,000 RPM, and it should go, I don't know, we'll see. I have no idea. I am gonna rev it up.
at 60.
Down, that is almost the definition of factory spec as far as I can tell on the internet. So, there we go. We have successfully diagnosed a bad sensor.